Hi, I'm Tom Pogue. I'm the Operations Supervisor for Black Hills Energy. I'm glad to be here today. I'm glad to be one of this year's sponsors for the State of the Region Lunch. I want to welcome you all today to today's event and hope you get some very informative information from today's speaker. So with that, please help me welcome Rich Scher of the Scher Success Group, the 2018 Chair of the Board for the Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Corporation, and Visitor Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you to Black Hills Energy for being our sponsor today. Without our great sponsors, these events would be very difficult to pull off. I'd also like to take this time to thank our other two sponsors, BBSI and Mountain View Electric Association, and you will hear from both of them later in today's program. So please join me. Let's give them a round of applause for their support. I'd like to thank you all for attending today, and I know that you will find your time spent here today to be well worthwhile. The Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Corporation, and Visitor Center is here to support not only our business community, but our community at large. In a few minutes, you'll hear from our president, Terry Hayes. Where's Terry? There she is. Who will update you on our activities over the past year and what we're planning for the upcoming year. Your board of directors is focusing on long-term strategic planning. I'm very proud of the hard work that we have done and that of our past boards. The effort that we've delivered has been fantastic, and I'm looking forward to making your chamber stronger and more efficient as we move forward. We are currently looking for members who are interested in serving on various committees or helping us by acting as ambassadors. If you have any interest or questions, we'd be happy to speak with you. Please either contact Terry or myself, and we'll do our best to get you hooked up. Remember, we're here for you, and I'm very happy to hear your comments and suggestions, and I look forward to serving you. Next, I would like to recognize a few of the key individuals in our audience today. So please stand when I call your name. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would be as kind as to hold your applause until we have introduced everybody. From the office of U.S. Senator Cory Gardner, we have Samantha Gunther, if you would please stand. On behalf of the Office of State Representative Paul Lundeen, Tim Geithner is here with us. And from the Office of State Representative Terry Carver, Kay Rendelman is here. There's Kay. We have our El Paso County Commissioner Daryl Glenn and El Paso County Commissioner Stan VanderWerf. Thank you to the Town of Palmer Lake Mayor John Cressman. I saw him earlier. There he is. Town of Monument Mayor Pro Tem Don Wilson. Town of Monument Trustee Jeff Bornstein, and Town of Monument Trustee Kelly Elliott. We have our Town Monument Town Manager Chris Lowe. Tri-Lakes Monument Fire Protection District Fire Chief Chris Trudy. Chief, thank you. Lewis Palmer School District 38 Superintendent Karen Broft. Karen, are you here? And school board members Tiffany Upchurch and Chris Taylor. If you would please give them all a round of applause. Thank you. I'd like to also introduce our Chamber of Commerce, EDC, and Visitor Center board members. In attendance today, we have our past chair, Matt Barrett from Business Truths Consulting. We have our treasurer, James Harding from Kaiser Permanente. Kevin Hancock from the law firm of Kevin R. Hancock. Tim Miller from Heartmine LLC. John Lease from Colorado Foothills Properties. Would you please stand, John? Thank you. Carrie Levine from Accounting Pros. Marilee Orcutt from Eagle Engraving Awards and Trophies. Greg Howard from Black Diamond Realty Group, Ann Pappas from the Friendly Box Company, Chris Banta from 828 Bookkeeping, our newest board member, and we have several past chairs with us today. Kevin Hancock, again, a past chairman of the board, Mike Law with Merrill Lynch, and Lori Wood with TSYS Merchant Solutions. If you would please recognize them with a round of applause. Again, I'd like to thank you for being here. I think you're going to find today to be very informative. And with that, I'd like to introduce our wonderful President and Executive Director, Ms. Terry Hayes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Still morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. You guys look great out there. I love this venue. It's a good room for it. We have the great views, and so thank you very, very much to Great Wolf Lodge. They have done a wonderful job accommodating us here today. I want to thank everyone that's attending today, our elected officials, community members, friends, and of course, our most treasured assets, our members. We appreciate you attending and showing us your support. This community, its businesses and organizations we work with do mean the world to us. In our line of work, it truly does take a village to be successful. It is an honor to be joining you again for our annual State of the Tri-Lakes region. I would like to first introduce my staff here today. We have Laura Easley, there you go, she's doing her job. She's talking with the staff member here. Laura is our event planner, and we have been growing so much and doing so many events that it finally just made sense to bring someone on that can do that for us, so it has been wonderful. And then our newest staff person, Jody Battle, there in the back. She is our office manager and director of membership. She has been with us only a couple of weeks, but she has definitely jumped in and already feels like part of the family. So thank you so much, Jody. Back at the office holding down the fort is Tara Peibel. She is our computer whiz. I think anything that we need to do with a computer or create, she does it for us. So I am truly lucky to have such a great staff that is committed not to just me or organization, but to you guys also. 2017 was kind of a fun journey. The nice thing is it was a steady journey. I am happy to say there really was not a big change or a big challenge that we faced in 2017. We had many changes in 2016, so I feel like last year was our time to settle down and actually get some work done. Staff spent many hours this last year going over our goals and action plans for our very first strategic plan. I'm going to say very first for me. There might have been one years ago in the chamber because we are 41 years old, but since I have been here, that is the first one. Because we are growing so much, it is time. We really needed to focus in the direction that we wanted to go. Our board fine-tuned it at our board retreat, and after some additional comments, it's going to be adapted soon. However, through this process, we already have been adapting a lot of the few very important items because we figured, why wait? So a lot of things started last year, and then we'll just officially adapt them earlier this year. I'm very proud of our board of directors. Yes, there they are, and some over here. They are all truly invested. I think when you talk to them, you realize that they really have the Tri-Lakes Chamber in their heart, and they want what's best for us. They want to make sure that they can serve the community and make us even better. One of the areas that we're fine-tuning, processes, systems, and writing down things to do, or writing down ways to do things. Doesn't that sound sexy? Well, it may not be, but it is very much needed, not just in our organization, but all of in your organizations. We are tweaking an already existing continuation plan so that we can survive everything from a natural disaster, could be anything from fire, flooding, anything like that, or as simple as a computer going down. My computer went down over the weekend, and suddenly I realized we have no spares, we have no backup to anything, so we solved that. So we are working on that so that we as a chamber, because we are growing so large, we need to make sure under any circumstances we are here and we are continuing to help serve you and the community. Even if there's something that happens to staff, the board will have the tools needed to not just hire staff, but to train them. In a small organization, we need to think this way, and it is critical, even if it is a little gloomy. Let's move on to a happier plan for 2018. It is the year of existing members. Our current members have always been a priority for us, but we definitely want to improve upon what we are currently doing, starting with the month someone joins. Our ambassadors play a huge part in helping us reach out to these members who may not attend events, but who support us for their other own reasons. Even if they don't attend, we want to make sure they are still up to date with our actions and our goals, and our ambassadors play a huge role in that. Would all of our ambassadors that are in the room today, please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. Our membership team will be working on how we can show our value, not only to our existing members, but future members and to the community as a whole. We will be looking to educate and inform them on how we can help, but also we will be looking to have them let us know what we need to do. What are we missing? What should we be doing more of? What should we be doing less of? We want to listen, maybe implement some things, and then go back and listen. Because I think that is the best way that we can support our members, is to mold and change as to what they need us to be. There's actually a plethora of things that we are involved in, but it's mostly behind the scenes. So you will be hearing more about these things, because if it's so far behind the scenes, we realize you don't know about it unless we tell you about it. So we are going to start talking about what we are doing for you as the members in our community. One thing we did last year was and we plan on doing even more this year, is speaking up on matters of development, as to whether a development might be an asset or it might be not so much an asset to our community. We have a responsibility to protect and support our local businesses while preserving a wonderful quality of life. About a week ago, I spoke at the Lewis Palmer Business Advisory meeting, and I'm actually going to steal a few of my own words from that because they're very applicable here. So I'm going to apologize now for a few of you that were in that room. You're going to hear a few familiar comments. First, our growth is an overall good thing. If you're not going up, you're going down. Business or communities just do not stay the same. It is not what history has shown us. So we want to embrace the growth. To many, our growth seems like it's all at once. But I do promise you, not everybody got together in a room and said, okay, now we're going to pull the trigger and we're all going to sell our land and we're all going to develop at the same time. It's just the economy. The economy is the right time. So a lot of these business owners have held on to their land for 20 plus years, but they're feeling now is the right time. So it really is not anything other than that. It's just the economy, and it's the right time for a lot of these landowners to pull the trigger. We are a hot commodity, let's face it. Our communities are close to I-25 and within commuting distances to both Denver and Colorado Springs. We have the wonderful views of the mountains, and we have choices. Do you have small kids that you want to live in a neighborhood where your kids can just run down the street to the next house? You're all really close-knit neighborhood. Do you want to live out a little bit farther? Do you want more land? Do you want a larger house? We have that. We have a few areas of multifamily developments. We could use a few more. Luckily, we did have some additional townhomes and attached homes that were just approved, so that will help. And that's especially going to help our younger families and our elderly that might be more on a fixed income, that once they quit work, they want to leave their big house. They don't want to have to leave the community that they have been living in. They want to be able to have some place to go and stay in the community. What comes after, or in our case, kind of during a housing boom? Commercial development. As anyone living in the Tri-Lakes area can attest to, you know Jackson Creek's been blowing up. This development has given us the convenience. The development gives us the convenience that we really need, so we don't have to travel outside of our area to run our errands anymore. And that's a positive, creating a sense of neighborhood, but also a positive in making sure that our tax dollars stay back in our community. Because the more you spend in our community, the more that helps our local towns and county give back to us. With a growing population, More local jobs are needed and definitely much appreciated. Not everyone is happy to commute. We have a lot of commuters. We are known as a bedroom community. We have families where one goes to Denver and one goes to Colorado Springs. So we're a great area for that. But what I've noticed over the years is after you've done that for a few years, you get kind of tired of it, especially if you're the ones going north. So you met Jody a few minutes ago. When I was looking for a new office manager, like a month ago, I received 120 resumes in 6 days. Luckily, there were some really great candidates, and so we were very fortunate to find Jody. However, what surprised me was the amount of people who submitted resumes who already had jobs and weren't qualified for that job at all. But the main reason why they just gave me their resume anywhere, because they wanted to come back and live in the community, work in the community where they live. And it was evident in their cover letters. They stated, this is what we want to do. We want to come back to our community and we want to live here. They are tired of driving 30, 40, 60 minutes away, which on a day like this is not tough, but when the snow hits and the ice hits, it is tough. Parents, as their kids start getting older, start getting into sports, start doing other after-school activities, you work in Denver, it's tough to get back for those events without practically taking a half day off. So we need to make sure that we are bringing those businesses, especially those primary businesses, to our community to have the jobs there for when the people decide that they don't want to commute anymore. I actually am a perfect example. I have a house in Southeast Black Forest, and my drive to the chamber for the first 4 years of my chamber life was about 30 minutes. Not bad, beautiful, beautiful drive through the trees. However, when it got icy, that drive could sometimes take 90 minutes. And if you work the hours that I work, which I know the vast majority of the people in this room work those same kind of hours, that's a lot out of your day just because it's icy. So after the 4 years, I said I had enough. And I now live in downtown Monument, and I walk to work every day, and I absolutely love it. And I do see that that is where people are going. So we just need to make sure as a community that we are ready for them when they do that. For these individuals, they need those jobs, and they need them now, because they could end up moving. They're gonna move, they're gonna do like me, I left Black Forest to move near my job. So we want them to stay in this community. So basically, this was a long-winded way of explaining that we need to support what the area needs, and we need to start speaking up about it more. For the first time this last fall, we hosted a community meeting for a developer looking to bring some of those jobs to our community, looking to develop off of Old Denver Road. It was a successful event, and we hope to host most of those types of meetings because it's a win-win. The community got a chance to share their opinions and talk to the developer. The developer also got a chance to share with the community what he is looking for, and then listen and take some of those suggestions forward for the final plan. Growth cannot be stopped, but it can be guided, where the end result is something that everyone can be proud of. The EDC committee is also working with Madeline. Where's Madeline? There's Madeline, with the Town of Monument, to help identify what businesses we are lacking here. What do we need? Going forward, our goal is to get more involved in what those businesses are for both what the people need and what they want. How many dry cleaners does an area need? How many clothing stores does an area need? We need to look at all of that and have what is sustainable and then also what the businesses need. And of course, we always want to attract those primary businesses which have the better paying jobs, which is great for our community, and then those primary businesses then support the secondary businesses. We cannot get everything here, nor should we. We are not for everybody. So part of this process is also eliminating some of the things that are not appropriate for our community, even if it is something that maybe some of our community members are wanting. So it's our job to educate them why either it's not going to happen, not because of us, but because of that organization's demographics that they need, or whatever the reason is, we need to educate them what can and cannot come here, and maybe perhaps what should not. What it all looks like yet, I have no idea. So 2018, stay tuned, and we'll let you know. I'll get back to you in a year, and we'll let you know how we did. Whether you are an emerging small business experiencing growing pains or a larger organization, we want you to think of us as your proactive business partner. You can look to the Chamber to provide business development opportunities, solid business strategies, and effective advocacy, all geared towards your success. Engaging with us dramatically increases your connections. We get invited to the table for almost every single topic and issue that goes on in our community. When it makes sense, we consider it our job to educate decision makers in a manner that helps their businesses. Our community role is growing every year, and I know we have a positive and influential impact around us. We provided at your seats a brief look at statistics and some highlights from 2017. We had a great year last year, and we know that we're going to have an even better year in 2018. My door is always open, along with the doors of our staff. We want to do nothing but support. We want to support our members, we want to support our community, and we want to support the Tri-Lakes region. At this time, I would like to say a heartfelt thanks to everyone who continues to support us every single year. I want to say thank you very much for being a part of us, the Chamber, the Economic Development Corporation, and the Visitor Center, and we look forward to an even better partnership with you in 2018. Thank you very much. Oops. Thank you. Now, I would like for the first of our elected officials that are going to be speaking today, I would like to welcome up John Cressman, Mayor of Palmer Lake.
Well, thank you, Terry. It's amazing what you do for the Chamber, and I think we should give her another round of applause for her dedication to what, in the long, long hours she works. Thank you. She will even attend our boring town council meetings. It's like, wow. It's a blessing. So thank you again for allowing me to speak again this year. I want to begin with some bad news, really bad news. I'm sorry to say that, talking about being eliminated, Apple is not going to locate their big campus in Palmer Lake, unfortunately. Very disappointed. So anyways, the lake continues to have and hold water, as you've seen, which is quite an accomplishment for our namesake. You can see people enjoying our lake, even when it's frozen. Ice fishermen and hockey players and ice skaters. It's wonderful that the lake is full again. And there's something going on. On the 24th of February, the town is going to sponsor a Winterfest, which is a bonfire, ice skating, hot dogs, s'mores. It's a fundraiser for our parks department. We're going to put up some new park equipment. So it's pretty exciting. As the weather gets warmer again, you're going to see people back on paddle boards and fishermen and people enjoying the picnicking and all sorts of human-powered craft are on that water lately. Located at the north end of the lake is a William Crawford Memorial that was dedicated late last year. William Crawford lived in Palmer Lake and was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his humble yet heroic actions in World War II. He was a good man, respected and loved by all who were blessed to know him and to hear his stories of his remarkable life. I was one of the fortunate. I would listen to his stories while Elaine, his wife, attempted to teach my kids piano lessons. It was incredible. I always wanted to take the kids. I'll go. Because I could hear Bill speak of his, humbly, of what he did for this country. It's amazing. I don't know if you know this, but Palmer Lake has received and got a GOCO grant extended for a pedestrian bridge over the tracks, which is going to allow people to cross safely and legally. This is a big deal. Now we're waiting for the railroad, hopefully soon, to approve our plans. So that will be a great addition to Palmer Lake, because it's really illegal to walk across railroad tracks, if you didn't know that. Palmer Lake takes pride in our trails that lead up to our reservoirs and beyond to the National Forest, and those hikers are welcomed in our retail establishments. It really draws a lot of people into town. Last year, I didn't mention the restaurant, so this year I'm going to give you the lowdown on the restaurants because that's one of the main revenue generators in Palmer Lake are our restaurants. So you have the Stube, which is new. They serve German cuisine. Their hours aren't quite as open as most. You got O'Malley's, been there forever. Great food. Speed Trap, coffee, live music, good food. It's a cafe. The Villa is a very old restaurant in Palmer Lake. It's got new ownership and seems to be doing quite well. And we also have Bella Panini, which I'm sure everybody knows, and they have many, many, many loyal, long-time clients. I'm one of them. Both the Villa and the Bella serve Italian food. And there's also a La Rosa that sells that serves New Mexican cuisine with some great tequilas also. Please come and enjoy our restaurants. It's a plea from me. And every September they have the Taste of Palmer Lake, the restaurant owners do, and you can go taste the food from very inexpensively from one restaurant to the next. It's a lot of fun. Recovery Village, that's our recovery center. And it has grown and it is full. They have added 3 new buildings. Those rooms are full. You notice this big tent from Highway 105, and that's a covering for a swimming pool. Those guys are really doing well. This Saturday, the Fireworks Committee is going to host Blues and Brews. It's at the Pinecrest Event Center, and it's $35, and you're going to get good food and good beer. Also, we'll continue to host our historical, unique town celebrations, which are, I'm sure you know, Lighting of the Star, Chili Supper, and the Yule Log Hunt. Also, the reinstated 4th of July fireworks show. As long as the fire department approves that it's safe, we'll have fireworks again. People always ask me, why isn't the star lit more? Speaking of the star. Well, we don't light it because it is so special. If we light it all the time for any occasion, it won't be so special. And I think all of you think, if you've seen it, it's beautiful. So, something new, Palmer Lake received a grant for a 250,000-gallon water tank that's going to help us with our water storage, that's finished water, and fire prevention. In regards to fire prevention, Palmer Lake has really embraced and completed many fire mitigation projects with notable assistance from the Coalition of the Upper South Platte. We call that CUSP. They have and will assist the town and our residents with clearing fire-prone fuels, creation of a defensible space. The cost of mitigation to the town and residents is reduced by about half through grants given to CUSP. The state of Colorado is also helping with a write-off, a tax write-off, up to $2,000 for those expenses. So Palmer Lake is really threatened by fires. And I know you can tell because you've seen the mountainsides and they're ready for a fire. So we're doing all we can to prevent that, I think. In closing, it's great to live and work in Palmer Lake. Oh, I know, I mentioned something else. I forgot something. Doug Higgins and Ron Reed, these 2 developers on 2 separate projects are adding 35,000 square feet of light industrial space into the town of Palmer Lake. That's off County Line Road. That's a huge contribution to commerce in Palmer Lake and the Tri-Lakes area. There's not a lot of that going on up here. So I really thank you for your time. And we love living in Palmer Lake. It is a little bit of heaven. Thank you. Now I get to introduce Mr. Chris Lowe, who's the town manager from the town of Monument. Come on up.
I'm just really excited about this annual award dinner that the Chamber has set up. I finally have the ability to use my white suit and pink undershirt. So for the first time, I'm excited to get dressed for the annual awards dinner. So I hope to see you all in all of your fluorescent finery here in a few months. To kind of piggyback on the mayor's comments about growth in Palmer Lake, I think we're seeing the same thing. Of course, we're at a higher altitude than Palmer Lake, but so you have to go up to the highest spot on the Front Range if you want to get to Monument. So we're happy that we've been able to attract some both commercial and residential development. We did 184 single-family starts last year. Put that in perspective, in the 3 cities that I managed in Kansas and Missouri, we averaged about 5 a year. So it's a little bit of a different product that we're offering here. Our commercial square footage went in as 176,196 square feet in just 2017. So I think we are seeing the business growth and development, and I'm sure our lovely chamber director is responsible for a lot of that. We basically project about a 7% increase in population in the Monument footprint. 7% is a lot to absorb, as you all know. I think some of the biggest things that we are trying to do as a government is provide an increase in the level of amenities that we offer. We don't want to compete with Colorado Springs for the 1,000 person job unit. That doesn't fit our footprint. But we certainly want to ensure that we are creating a haven for businesses and a decent environment for them to locate and develop if it fits the scale that they need. So we have tried to do some things in our budget to develop a revitalized downtown. It used to be when people asked me where the best restaurant was in Monument, I'd say, yeah, it's in Palmer Lake. Luckily, we have the Bistro, which has come in, and the Black Forest Cafe with its hamburgers. So we're seeing some of that development. The problem with Monument in our downtown is that, yeah, it's historic, but there's not much left to see of that historic past. For example, we just had a project at 2nd and Front Street to repair a large swale that had developed in the intersection that many of our residents hit the undercarriage of their cars on a daily basis. And of course, I received no complaints about that. So we did address that problem. One of the things that we are struggling with is to find an anchor for our downtown, whether that be an anchor tenant or whether it be anchored amenities. We were applying for a grant through GOCO that would provide a splash park in our downtown park. And we're trying to increase our quality of the amenities that we provide because we aren't going to compete with Colorado Springs. We're not going to compete against Denver. So we need to show why we are, in all due respect to the mayor of Palmer Lake, while we're the best community in the Tri-Lakes and the best community in the Springs area. And if he hires me in the future, I'll say the opposite about that for Palmer Lake. So anyway, we think what's good for Palmer Lake is actually good for Monument, is good for the Tri-Lakes region, Woodmore especially as well. So one of the biggest challenges, as we all know, with growth in Colorado, especially on this side of the divide, is do we have enough water to support development? Our board actually adopted a capital improvement plan that deals with both short, mid, and long-term problems that we have in terms of water acquisition. So I think you will see us addressing some of the issues with our current groundwater or alluvial wells. As we begin to develop, we have a reuse plant that's on our capital improvement plan that's been approved. We feel like that is going to increase our capacity about 40% from what we currently have. And so that's an important midterm strategy. It's also the strategy that we know pays off because it's using water to its extinction. So we think that that's the cheapest and best effort that we can have to provide water for both residential and commercial development. We do have a planning staff that's gone from there were, I think, let me remember, oh, that's right, we had 0 employees when I began. That was a little interesting. We now have 5 folks in that department because we have to deal with the amount of growth, both commercial and residential, that we're seeing. I think all of us are going to be challenged with how do we address, a 7% influx of people. That's certainly good for business owners that have a product to sell. It's harder for governments that have infrastructure to build. So we are attempting to deal with that with using sustainable water practices, both in the midterm with a reuse plant and long-term for finding a renewable water strategy. And we believe that it will be a regional strategy. The challenge I think that Tri-Lakes faces is we have to mortgage the fact that we're all small, but together we're a lot more powerful. We're in discussions already to help Tri-View's new district manager in asphalt bidding for this next summer, which it will be here quicker than we all think. But it's through those kind of cooperative efforts that we can leverage the size. Now we have something to offer because we are all together. And I've even talked with the town manager for Palmer Lake about maybe combining some work on some trails. Again, that fits our amenity-centered culture that we're trying to provide. We want people that may be in a bedroom community, but we'd like to see them stay in town on Friday and Saturday nights. They're not going to do that if we don't have amenities. So the chamber and some other entities do a great job of providing events in the summer where we can have people come out and enjoy that small town feel. I'm one of those people who doesn't enjoy the small town feel of our July 4th parade, but I have different reasons for why that is, just because I know what it costs us to do that. But it does help us sell our product. It sells the Tri-Lakes region as a place that you can locate your growing family or locate your growing business. We have a high per capita income on the residents that live in the footprint. If I talk about that, I'm talking mostly the school district's footprint. So we do want to leverage that, and I think that cooperative projects like Palmer Lake and Monument are discussing right now, those are going to be the backbone of the strength of growth as we see it. We are trying to develop the I-25 corridor in a responsible and reasonable fashion. The I-25 corridor, I've spoken to some developers over the last few months, and they actually have the philosophy, if they build it, they will come. Easy to say for me when it's not my money into the public project to build some of these commercial entities, to build these commercial businesses. But we certainly are working hard that we have the infrastructure prepared for that growth, and we are addressing how we can make that growth work in a smart fashion that does preserve the small town feel that we all in the Tri-Lakes are located here to enjoy. So we are seeing significant interest in that I-25 corridor. When I got here 2.5 years ago, that did not exist. I mean, there was zero interest in properties. Those properties were sitting fallow, and that is not good for the region. And so we are hopeful that we can develop the I-25 corridor for what it's designed in our comp plan, which is commercial development and some light industrial. And so we are seeing interest in entities that are exploring that. That did not happen 2.5 years ago. So I think you all need to be prepared for the concept. The growth is coming whether you like it or not. It's either you control it as part of the town or whether you give it to the county to control, which doesn't always give you the best options as maybe a municipality might want. So it's very important that we develop a strategy among the region to preserve that small town value system, but also allow that growth to happen responsibly. But I mean, what you have to realize is in 2008, you couldn't build a residential unit. And now we're building 184. The manager in Castle Rock is a friend of mine from Kansas, where we both managed. And he said they were looking at growth of 800 to 1,000 houses in 1 year, all probably in the $500,000 range and up. That growth is happening, and the fact is, it's going to trickle down to Monument, to Palmer Lake. You're going to see that growth because folks can get a little more house for a little less money, and then they get the small town schools and that sort of thing. So the fact is, it's going to happen. It's all about how we handle it cooperatively as a region to make sure that that happens in an acceptable and smart fashion. So I think the outlook is very good. I'm amazed at how much growth is there. I'm amazed in some of the talents of the entrepreneurs that live in this community. I'm amazed at some of the volunteers that are working with our seniors that are addressing some of our poorer residents. I talked to Haley Chapin, Dave Betzler. Those are a couple people that are trying to make sure that when that growth happens, the social services keep up with the infrastructure. Infrastructure is my problem. Their problem is funding and being able to address those populations as they grow. So I'm very excited to have this chamber be as active, to have you all as members that promote our region. I will tell you that that's exceptional. I've managed in 4 other cities. I've never seen a chamber that is as effective as this one. So I think Terry deserves a lot of credit for that, but so do all of you members. We certainly appreciate what you're doing in our region and for our municipality, and I think it's a very bright future. So thank you for allowing me to go far over my 5 minutes, but the mayor did it too, is all I'm saying. So thank you. Who do I have to introduce? Come on down. You're the next contestant.
Good afternoon. I'm Erica Meyer, and I'm with Mountain View Electric Association. And MVEA has been serving power to the Tri-Lakes region for 76 years. Currently, we have over 45,000 members in our entire service territory, but we still operate on the same principles we started with years ago. We're still owned by you, our members, and we work to provide the very best in service. We are so happy to be here today at this fantastic event. We're proud to sponsor it, and we're also here to support the communities that we serve and the members that we serve. The success of the Tri-Lakes region is really important to us. And with that, I would like to introduce our next speaker, County Commissioner VanderWerf.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I had a wonderful experience speaking with you last year, and it's my honor to be here again. And by the way, congratulations, 41 years for the Tri-Lakes Chamber. Did I understand that correctly? That's really outstanding. I also want to say that I enjoy very much working with the senior staff of the Tri-Lakes Chamber and Terry Hayes in particular. We've had several meetings and work extensively on issues that cross between Tri-Lakes and the county, and it's been my pleasure and honor to get to know her and to know a lot of people in our community up here. Also today, we're going to have 2 presentations, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but my distinguished colleague, Commissioner Glenn, will speak on some topics. He wasn't sure he wanted me to say the word distinguished, but I believe he deserves it, so there it is. I've said it, and I can't take it back. But I do want to also say to the towns of Palmer Lake and Monument, I've heard several words from the representatives from there, and by the way, nice to see you all again. It is important to think about your communities and what you want for the future. The strategic thinking part of that is really, really critical because the population wave is coming. For those of you that may not have heard, there are expectations that El Paso County and the Colorado Springs broader community is going to rival the population of Denver by 2040. It is coming, ladies and gentlemen. So the strategic planning, the strategic thinking that you could do today, that you can do today, that will help preserve the character that you want in your local communities while working through a process to address that population growth. That's very, very important. And now's the time to do it so that you're prepared for it. So that strategic thinking is very important. Give you some examples that I think, or one example that I think is interesting. El Paso County grew more in population than the entire population of Teller County just in 2017. To give you a sense of what's actually going on already. So it is coming, and we need to be ready for that. Now, there are several things that I'd like to talk about very briefly, and I have 10 minutes. I'll do my best not to go past that time. And then Commissioner Glenn will come up here and do some deep dives into some of the really big topics like I-25 widening. So I will not discuss that. Commissioner Glenn will discuss that, and he has some other topics he'll bring up. But what I wanted to talk about was the ballot measure and the other things that the ballot measure is going to do. First of all, thank you very much for voting for the ballot. That ballot won on a 2-to-1 margin. It was an overwhelming success as far as number of votes in support of it. It does leave money aside for I-25 widening, but it also produces an enormous amount of fiscal opportunity for the county to deal with local roads. During the bad economic times, we had to defer a lot of maintenance and recapitalization on our roads, but the ballot measure is going to allow us to invest tens of millions of dollars into addressing that infrastructure shortfall. So that was very, very important. But there are other components of that ballot, which include a $1.5 million for county parks, county regional parks. And there's a likelihood that we're going to be leveraging that through state and federal funds into a $4 million plus benefit. So you all voted for that as well, and my thanks to that. We had a similar scenario on the disaster recovery. That ballot measure included $1 million to be set aside for that. And there's leveraging there, again, with state and federal funds to turn that potentially into $3 million. And that's some of the closeout activity regarding the Waldo Canyon and Black Forest Fire at the county level to try to do the final addressing of those issues. And it doesn't represent the entire investment for both of those disasters in our community. The local municipalities have been investing in recovery as well, but this is the county share. To the next point, I wanted to talk about homeless issues. We know how important this is and what an issue it has been in our community. It may surprise you that actually our homeless population is actually no larger than any other normal community across the country. Our challenge, at least in the Colorado Springs area, is that the service providers and where they are located puts the homeless situation prominently in front of our eyes. So it looks like a huge problem. Now, having said that, there are challenges that we as elected officials have to deal with. Depending on where the homeless camp, which is often near streams like Fountain Creek and so forth, it does produce both a public safety and a public health hazard, and we have obligations to deal with that. It's a difficult topic because we have to be compassionate with regard to the issue, but we also have a broader goal, and that is to protect the public from public health and public safety problems. So I wanted you to know that I was elected in the fall of 16. I've been a commissioner for a year, and in 2017 I did 5 homeless camp cleanouts, and I personally attended 3 of those and helped out. We did our best to have service providers there to give the homeless opportunities to go to those service providers and seek help. I am sorry to say we did not have a single taker in that. So the folks that we were interacting with did not take that support. But we have done that, and that was kind of mostly in the old Colorado City Fountain area. But one thing I think is very important, one of my nightmare scenarios that concerns me is the possibility of a homeless camp in forested land using a warming fire and that getting out of control, and we have another Waldo Canyon. This is really, really important, and I believe it's important for all of us as citizens. If you run into a homeless camp, please call your local law enforcement or call the sheriff's office. Please make sure that that our public officials are made aware of that. Talk to your elected officials, because it may be necessary, it may be important for us to address that so that we can deal with forest fire risk mitigation. And for those of you that haven't been thinking about it, we've had a pretty dry winter so far, and that does not portend well for the spring. in the summer as far as fire risk. Now last year, I think later on into the ski season and so forth, we had a lot of snowfall and things corrected themselves, but if that doesn't happen, we're going to have, I think, a challenging summer. So one of the things I brought with me is actually a 6-minute video that the county did regarding personal things you can do in your own residence regarding fire risk mitigation. I'm going to give this to Terry at the end of the lunch today, and please use it at your discretion and hand it out, and I can get you more copies if you want. Also, the county enacted a camping ordinance. Now, there was a similar ordinance in the city for a long time, but the county did not have an ordinance for people camping in RVs on county streets or on curb sites. So when we ran into people living in those kinds of conditions, which would be, an issue for that local community, local law enforcement, the sheriff's office, actually had no recourse to cite. So all 5 of us commissioners voted in favor of this camping ordinance, and so that is now an ordinance, and citations can be delivered by the sheriff's office, and the sheriff has completed their review about how they would act when they run into these situations, so that's completed as well. So if you run into that situation in your communities, if it is county jurisdiction, please call the sheriff's office. They will come, and they now have the tools necessary in order to deal with the situation. We resolved that as 5 commissioners this year. Also, I can say we have a community services block grant program. That's federal pass-through money that comes down to our community. And about 80% of those funds were being spent on emergency services dealing with homeless situations. And I feel like our community broadly has been dealing with emergency services, putting people into shelter for a night, giving them a meal for a night, and we haven't really moved the needle on homelessness in our community. So I truly believe that the solution is about self-sufficiency instead of emergency services. So what we've done in the CSBG program in the county is we've reversed the allocation of those funds to focus on getting homeless folks and other people in need into a situation where they can deal with their own issues, then get job training, then become self-sufficient, and then get off public assistance, hopefully. Now, this is a bit of an experiment. We're trying this out. But what we've been doing basically is spending the majority of that money on emergency services, which really hasn't been making changes. I bring this to you because there are several things we're doing in the county at this time to try to more proactively deal with the homeless situation. And I have to imagine that you appreciate that as business owners and as residents in our community. Also, I'd like to talk about the Pikes Peak Workforce Center. We have a new executive director, Terry Marquez. If you haven't met her, she's awesome. You need to go meet her. She is ready and willing to work with your businesses to help you find employees. And I know in a fast-growing economy, that's always a big challenge. Also, we are working extensively on industry alignment, making teams that specialize in industries within the Pikes Peak Workforce Center. And I just want you to know we continue to have very successful job fairs. Our job fairs in the Colorado Springs community that are hosted by the Pikes Peak Workforce Center are double and triple the size of what Denver does out of their workforce center. When we have one, we'll have 150 to 200 employers. And there will be thousands of people looking for jobs going to those things. They're really something to go to. Even if you're not looking for a job, go sometime and just see it, because the energy is there, the positive feel is there, and it's really something to watch. But if you are a business owner, take advantage of that. Bring a booth down there and let a whole bunch of people looking for jobs walk across that booth. And last few I've been to, they were jam-packed full of people looking for jobs. So it is an opportunity as a business owner. Okay, so the next chart, I wanted to talk a little bit about tiny homes. This is obviously a topic that people have heard about. In December, the county enacted a tiny home policy, land use policy, that is now completely embedded in our land use code. This is interesting because what was going on is, you may or may not know, but the Colorado Springs broader community is one of the largest tiny home manufacturing communities in the United States. And the land use policy was actually getting in the way because it didn't sufficiently treat it. It was getting in the way of allowing the industry to service a need, which is lower cost housing. So we changed the ordinance, and now tiny homes can be used. It's a little bit lengthy about how that's treated specifically, and I can discuss that with you at length later, but I'm going to leave it at that at this point. What I can tell you, though, is because of what we did there, this county, El Paso County, is now the national leader in the ways that we allow tiny homes to be used in our community. And they are in thoughtful ways. Okay, so just to give you a few examples. If you have a mobile home park, you could put tiny homes in there, or mobile homes, if it's in county jurisdiction. If you have an RV park, you could put tiny homes in that RV park. These things were things that were not allowed before. You can actually apply to do a tiny home development, like a mobile home development. And you have to go through all the building code reviews and all the approvals just like anybody else, but that's now another opportunity. And the last treatment is as an accessory structure. So if you're building, say, like a grandmother's apartment above your garage, there's a series of things you have to follow in county jurisdiction regarding setback and everything else, and it cannot be the primary structure on the property, but tiny homes are now allowed to deal with those scenarios as well. And we're hopeful that this is going to help a little bit with regard to the challenges we have with a shortage in housing. Okay, also, I think that we've done a lot in the arena of improving cooperation with other local municipalities. To give you an example, is that the city of Colorado Springs and El Paso County is working together to consider the possibility of combining our two offices of emergency management. The value of that is improved coordination when disaster strikes, when the next fire comes, which is not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And that will improve the coordination and opportunities for us to work better together. The great news about this is that right now, I see an interesting scenario where all of the elected officials in the city of Colorado Springs, in Monument, in Palmer Lake, in Green Mountain Falls, in Fountain, and the El Paso County Commissioners, we actually enjoy working with each other. And this is an opportunity for us to do a lot of cooperative work. So we're in a really interesting, unique, dynamic, and I think a time that's got a lot of energy in it, which is, I think, really positive. Also, for some of you, you may know, we did redistrict because of the fast population growth, and we have statutory requirements about how many numbers of people are in individual precincts. And what that did in the Tri-Lakes and Monument, Tri-Lakes area, was that a few precincts were moved from Commissioner Glenn's district to my district, Commissioner VanderWerf. This is essentially the downtown Monument area. Generally speaking, the division between the two districts is I-25, and everything east is in Commissioner Glenn's, and everything west, except for the Academy, is in my district. And I can tell you that Terry has told us that she actually likes this because it means she gets two commissioners at these lunches and also for other events. But I tell you what, both Commissioner Glenn and I are proud to be here and talk to you. But I wanted you to be aware of that redistricting. It did take place in the spring. And then county outdoor recreation venues, I just wanted to talk briefly about this because we have created a new county regional park called the Elephant Rock Open Space. Now, I imagine many of you already know about this, but it is the first county regional park up in your area. And we had known for a long time that we had failed to really provide a county place for parks up in this area, so we have now done that. And all the work is not done yet, but the land is acquired and the land is protected, and through the course of the year we'll be putting trails in and those kinds of things. Also, for biking and running venues, one of the interesting things I found, like we had the big bike race last summer in downtown Colorado Springs, and these tend to come and go, but they don't stay. And that's because in Colorado Springs, as much as I love the city, it's an expensive place to hold those venues. So when you go through downtown, it's lots of barricades and lots of police. So I started working with Tim Walken, our director of parks. I wonder if the county could help, where we could have less barricades and less police and put us into a market space where we can compete for these venues. So I'm happy to say we have actually done that, and we've achieved our first one. It's not up here in the northern part of El Paso, but it is in Fountain. It'll be a gravel grinder on May 12, starting and ending in Fountain, and taking advantage of the unpaved roads, which is what gravel grinders use, that go out east, because as we all know, El Paso County has lots of miles of unpaved roads out east. So this is going to be another venue that fits into our Olympic character and our outdoor athletic character. And I am looking forward to deep discussions in 2018 about something similar up in the Tri-Lakes area that would be uniquely a local municipality and El Paso County event. And I think we'll be able to do that. And then the last thing, it's not quite clear on the bottom there, but just a kind of a last fun thing. When I was running my campaign, knocking on doors as we're supposed to do, I knocked on the door of an individual in a mobile home park in Colorado Springs, and to my amazement, it's a husband and wife that live in there, and the husband was a survivor of the USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor during the Pearl Harbor attack. For those of you that don't know, there are 4 remaining survivors left of Pearl Harbor, and one of them lives in our community. So I resolved at that time that I would do something for that person, and on June 8th, we named June 8th El Paso County Don Stratton Day, and the gentleman's name is Don Stratton. So there's been a series of things that have happened. You know, this was an expression of the county, expression of compassion to Don Stratton and his family. Wasn't necessarily a big event, but it meant a lot to the family that day was named Don Stratton Day. But what did the family do in response? They said, "That was so kind of you to do that. We would like to give you a piece of the USS Arizona." So sometime in this spring, perhaps in February, we're going to get a 4-foot by 3-foot by 18-inch piece of the USS Arizona that was related to Don Stratton's duty station on the ship. And we have now formed a committee called the Pikes Peak Heroes Legacy Committee that will be going through the fundraising and the exhibit design so that we can prominently display it somewhere in Colorado Springs or El Paso County. I think that's a great story because we have some amazing people in this community, and some of them are so humble you would never know they were here. And there's one last thing that we did with Don Stratton. And speaking with our other elected officials, our House representatives, Larry Liston in particular, since Don Stratton lives in his district, we did a proclamation naming the Fillmore Bridge the Don Stratton Bridge. And that officially took place on 26 January, just this last Friday. So later on in the spring, we will have a ceremony near the bridge and get the signs up on the bridge. But I just wanted you to know, this is something we do in our community. We honor our heroes, and I was proud to be part of that. But it's just a great thing to do, and I recommend we do more of it. So that's my update. Thank you very much. And I think there's somebody coming up to introduce Commissioner Glenn. There you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Appreciate that. My name is Knight Hinman. I am with Barrett Business Services, Inc., or BBSI. We are an HR management company helping businesses navigate the sometimes treacherous waters of human capital, those pesky employees that some of us have or some of us are. We're so proud to sponsor this event and work with many of the fantastic businesses in the Tri-Lakes area. Please come back and visit our table that we have in the back if you'd like to learn more about our program and how we're helping small businesses, medium-sized businesses here in the state. A few of the facts and figures that I read on this piece of paper really hit me today. I'd encourage you to take it out and take a look at it, but 97 events were hosted in 2017 by the Tri-Lakes Chamber. Over 1 million member website hits. Huge, getting the word out there about the businesses here. 30,000 attendees at the events that were hosted, which is just fantastic. And I thought best of all, 1,200 hours of community service volunteering was done. So can we say thanks one more to Terry and her group that just, thank you. what a commitment to the communities and to the businesses here. Now, I'd like to introduce County Commissioner Glenn. Please join me in thanking Daryl for his 21 years of military service to our country, over 8 years of service on the Board of Commissioners. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming El Paso County Commissioner for District 1, the very distinguished Glenn. Thank you, sir.
Oh, we have to knock that off. Wow. I tell you, it is a pleasure being here today, and I talked to Terry, and she says I can speak till 3 o'clock, if you're all right with that. But, I truly want to say thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing with the Chamber. I want to thank my colleague here. And this is kind of a bittersweet moment because this is my last opportunity to speak to you, because this time next year you will have a new commissioner. So you're going to have to pay attention to the primary and the election afterwards. So we have a couple of candidates in the audience today. But again, I just want to tell you what a privilege it is to have been your commissioner in this particular area. And as we move closer to June, we're going to be moving closer to a very historic event, a remembrance of the Black Forest Fire. So we're going to take some time to reflect on that. So I just wanted to put those markers on out there for you. But again, I think Commissioner VanderWerf talked about how appreciative we are for you supporting that ballot question. It really kind of jump-started this whole I-25 widening. And I think there might be a little interest in that project in this room. What do you think? I don't know. But this is something to where, as far as the foot stomper of my presentation, I really need you in this community to be attentive in this particular area. When you think about this project, it's a $350 million CDOT project. We've all driven that. We understand what it's like. And I can tell you, we really need to make sure that CDOT understands what our preference is. And I say that, this isn't even in my speech, but I was watching the news last night, and one of the CDOT representatives, again, I guess, I don't know what the question was asked to him, but he started talking about tolling that particular area. We are not ready to concede that. We are going to fight that aggressively. And we need to make sure that you understand that. We came out pretty strong, and we came up with a resolution, emergency resolutions, to make sure that they understood exactly how we felt about that. And when you're looking at the funding, this is an excellent opportunity of organizations working together to try to cobble together the funds necessary to be able to do this. When you think about, again, CDOT's initial project cost was $350 million. The CDOT contribution is $250. We had to apply for this infra grant. And there was a lot of dialogue with regard to this infra grant. And one of the things that was not, in my opinion, properly portrayed is the fact that you have to actually exclude the option of tolling when you're applying for this particular grant. You just can't apply for it and say, ignore this provision here. We have to actually exclude that as part of the requirements. And that's why right after we submitted that on behalf of this region, we adopted a resolution to make it very clear that when we're looking at the contribution that this region has put together and the pressure that we want to put working with our state delegation, that we believe that we should be able to have a free third lane. We do not want to concede a toll lane. So you're going to have a lot of public opportunities to voice your opinion. CDOT's going to have a lot of meetings, but what we want to do is the county is committed to hosting meetings. Because I don't know if you've ever attended some of the listening sessions. It really is. It's like they talk, you listen. We want to have an opportunity to control the meeting so that you have an opportunity to talk and provide feedback to them. It's very important. So the takeaway from my presentation today is pay attention to those meetings, voice your opinion. We are not ready to concede anything. So there's pay attention. So that's very important. When you think about other areas Transportation, I can tell you in almost 8 years being on the board, my phone blows up. I always worry when it snows because it's like, where's the plows? And then construction, when you start talking about infrastructure, it's extremely important. And you're going to see some progress here in the fact with Highway 105. It's a $5.5 million safety and capacity improvement project, and we are pleased to announce the first phase of that is going to begin later on this year. We're talking about that 5-mile stretch as we go to 83, and then we're really going to kick in phase 2 starting next year. So you're going to start seeing some improvement in that particular area. You know, another project that is near and dear to your heart is Struthers and Glen Eagles. How many people in here love roundabouts? Okay, I was expecting a bigger response. But I understand. I have to drive through 3 roundabouts just to get to my house. It's one of those things where it's an acquired taste. You have to get used to it. But you are going to see that's a $1.7 million project, and we're going to be working on that soon. Monument Hill has been a very important project, near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, especially when you're dealing with kids. When the weather gets a little bit warmer, we're definitely going to start seeing some safety improvement area in that, and especially when it comes to being able to have pedestrian access there. So expect to see a lot of movement in that area. Beacon Light. Oh, please. If I could pave Beacon Light myself, I would. I trust me, I would. We get it. It's coming. It's a $4.4 million project. You're going to start seeing some preliminary design work here in the spring. In 2019, you're also going to see us working on some shoulders and other safety improvement. But trust me, we are pushing that as hard as we can, trying to make sure we get the funds. I know how passionate people feel about Beacon Light. So please, if you live on Beacon Light, if you know people on Beacon, I get the emails. We're going to do it. Trust me. Finally, asphalt overlays and chip seals. We'll try to put a lot of that information on our website, but that's another reason why it's so important with the passage of that ballot question. We are going to be able to start in and do some asphalt overlays and chip seals. That's so important when you start talking about quality of life improvements and people care about their communities. We are now in a position, we're always in a reaction mode, but we are going to be able to make some improvements in that particular area. So what I want to do with the remaining time is I want to talk about our region. I absolutely love it. This place, I grew up here. I'm as close to being a native as possible. I got here when I was 2.5. I couldn't encourage my parents to get here any faster, but I've seen the growth, and it's amazing what's happening in our region. And I'm telling you, when you start thinking about our quality of life, we are booming. We are going in the right direction. And I think you especially feel that pressure when you start talking about people having to commute and they're buying homes here because the housing market up north is ridiculous. You're feeling that pressure. But we are looking at some major indicators that are letting us know that our community is really doing well. When you're looking at our sales tax collections, we're up over 8% over last year. Now, that certainly isn't sustainable, but that's a major indicator that things are going well. Another area that we look at is through our Pikes Peak Regional Building, new single-family home permits. We are looking at about $1.2 billion. We are on pace from where we were prior to the Great Recession. And another thing that we look at as far as an indicator is in our planning and community development. We're looking at 334 major development applications that have actually been started that process. Those are major things that are happening in our region. So I'm telling you, I don't know what's happening, what's in the water, but things are going really well in our region. So we should be very proud of that fact. But again, like we talked about, it's going to put tremendous strain on our infrastructure to be able to do that. So we need to make sure that you hold your elected officials accountable for focusing in on infrastructure improvements. We've got to be able to do that because, again, our region is going to continue to boom. Another thing that I look at, and this was a surprise to me, is looking at our clerk and recorder stats. If you're frustrated about traveling on I-25, well, we have over 665,000 motor vehicles registered. That's amazing when you think about that. That's up almost 14% since 2012. And that is just, I understand now, road rage. When you have that number of people, and then that doesn't even factor in like kids. Oh, Lord help us. Our assessor, looking at some of the stats that are happening there, when you're looking at, we're tracking $274,000 in real estate parcels. That's an estimated $68.8 billion. That's up over 28% from 2012 when you start looking at our valuations. Those are major things that are happening, and I think that reflects what's going on, our community, our quality of life. You know, this is the first time I've actually been here, and I'm thinking for everybody that loves the Academy and football games, what a great place to be able to be right here, look at the flyovers. This is unbelievable. But a lot of people are actually coming here, and they're staying here. Even people in the military, they start their career here, they go off, and you always hear about people wanting to come back, and they retire here. I don't know about California. We got to do something about that, about people coming in here. But hey, it's one of those things, we take them all as long as they pay taxes, right? That's what we care about. What's happening, and we are trying to really embrace innovation. And I'm just so impressed with our other elected officials that fall within the county. And we're going to highlight a couple of those today. And we're going to show you a video. And our county assessor has a website that's unbelievable. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with our assessor's website. It's unbelievable the amount of information on there. And I think we have a little clip from our county assessor, Steve Sliker.
As assessor here in El Paso County, one of the things I'm most proud about is the assessor's website, which receives over 37 million hits a year. This last March, I launched El Paso County Community, which is a product developed by Spatialist. This allowed more information to be viewed by our users here in El Paso County, such as ownership information, value information, census data, education attainment, and just a number of things which allow our users, our citizens here in El Paso County, to view this and review information that's going on within their particular neighborhood or economic area and make an informed decision whether or not to appeal their property value.
So let's talk about within our planning and community development department. Again, here's another thing that we are trying to do. We're trying to embrace automation and do things electronically so that when people are out in the field, they actually have the ability to input information, and it really helps people when it comes to reviewing development applications. I want to, again, sing the praises of our clerk and recorder's office. When you start thinking about 40,000 motor vehicles registration renewal cards each month. If you haven't been down to the one over on Union, that Department of Motor Vehicle office, we are the only office in the state that's open on Saturday. That's something to be proud of. And that's something that they took on as an initiative to be able to do that. That puts us on the map. We are also, when you start thinking, about that particular office and that's the services that we're trying to do, we actually have a clerk and recorder office on Fort Carson. That model is being studied so that when we're trying to provide services to our men and women that fight for us, that we're trying to make sure that they don't have to, we make things as convenient as possible for them. I want to focus in on some things that fall below the radar that are kind of a passion for me for my last 2 years on the board. I really wanted to focus in on these things that as a board of county commission, we provide those safety net services. And some of the things that are really stressing the community are we have the largest jail in the state. And we are often at capacity each and every day. And that puts a lot of strain on us when we start thinking about, well, what are we going to do? Our population is over 680,000, and we're having issues of a big city. We kind of have a small town mentality, but we're starting to see a lot of concerns. You're starting to see a lot of people that are being incarcerated, a lot of mental health issues, and sometimes the easiest thing to do is you put people in jail. That puts us in a situation where we have to make a decision. And are we looking at do we need to have another jail? Do we need to build onto that, have another capital project? Or do we need to have innovative ways to be able to address this problem? we looked at that as a board, and I can definitely speak for the sheriff. We have no desire to come out and ask for you for more money to build a jail. Instead, we want to be able to focus in on some of those underlying areas. And that's why we started up, again, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And I'm heading that up. And one of the reasons why we want to do that is we want to find ways to try to help reduce that jail population, but also try to address some of the recidivism issues that we're having to deal with in the community. People make mistakes. They do. And sometimes they get incarcerated. But it doesn't mean they necessarily have to stay there while they're waiting to go through the system. And what we've done with coordinating with our judges and law enforcement and mental health agencies, we've really started, and I applaud my colleagues on the board, where we're investing some money in our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and pretrial services, which allow people to bond out, and it keeps them working, it keeps them, their families connected, and it helps us manage our jail population too. The sheriff is predicting that based on what we've been able to do with just our investment, it should be able to keep our jail population down by almost 200. And that's something that's extremely important. So that's something to pay attention to on what we're doing going forward. You know, in other areas, you're talking about detox issues. We're seeing a lot of concerns that are happening in this community. And I tell people, we're going to be involved in it one way or the other. We're either going to have to be proactive and help people in the situation and come up with wraparound services, or we're going to be dealing with them in our jails and our emergency rooms. And we looked at ourselves as a county, and we said that, look, we cannot be at the tip of the spear when it comes to being that umbrella agency. That's a little bit beyond our scope. But what we can do is we can be at the table. And we reached out and we looked for a community partner that specializes in behavioral health type issues. And I'm proud to announce at the end of last year, we developed a partnership relationship with Crossroads Turning Point. They're a nonprofit organization, and they have experience dealing with a lot of these substance abuse issues that are well beyond the scope of what we can do as commissioners. But what they can do is they can kind of help us work together with addressing these particular concerns. So those are some areas that I believe that are extremely important that we need to focus in on as a community. But overall, you know, again, the state of our region is absolutely fantastic. I want to be able to leave some time so that if you have any questions, and I'm sure Commissioner VanderWerf or anybody else, this is your opportunity to really ask us any questions that you have, but you are living in a great place, and I'm sure you know that. And we are here, we're public servants. It's bittersweet that this is my last opportunity to be with you, but I've still got a whole year to work on some issues with you. But again, you're in good hands, and if there's anything that we can do, please let us know.